Yay, my dream game, my dream game. Yeah, that's my dream. What time is it? Good morning to everyone. We're about to begin in time, just a few minutes. So please be seated as we're about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, as we're about to begin, please be seated. Kindly switch off your mobile phones and put it on silent mode in order to avoid interruption. Thank you for your kind cooperation and attention. A very good morning to respected speakers of today's talks. Mr. Chan Wang Hong, General Manager, Acer Malaysia, Mr. Lei Howard, Director at Sheffield Executive Talent Acquisition and Talent Development Specialist, respected management team of Master University, Ms. Stella Lau, Deputy Vice Chancellor of Corporate Affairs, Corporate Services and Academic Affairs, Mr. Danny Chan, Group Senior Director, Deans, Deputy Deans, Heads of Programs, faculty members, marketing staff of Master University. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to be a moderator of today's program. I am Afrin Durrani on behalf of the organizing committee. We wish to extend our warm welcome to all the speakers and guests to the Adult Learning Month talks. We appreciate you all taking time off your busy schedules to join us today. Adult Learning Month's mission is to highlight the benefits of lifelong learning and to encourage everyone to embrace it. Education is a catalyst for human development. However, in order to be effective, the education provided shall be sound, equitable, culturally sensitive, and affordable, which Master University continuously strives to achieve. The month of activities has been organized with the concept of Empower, Equip, Elevate. In this Adult Learning Month, several valuable and informative talks have been planned on every weekend, along with the program previews at Master University, run by the faculty and marketing staff to brief you on the programs offered by Master University. At the opening ceremony of Adult Learning Month last weekend, we had various interesting talks that highlighted the importance of continuous learning and the changes it can make to our life and the lives of those around us by various eminent personalities from different organizations. Today's speakers will provide us not only with essential knowledge, but they will share also their valuable experiences with us. Without further delay, I would like to invite Mr. Chan Wang Hong, General Manager of Acer Malaysia, to deliver today's talk. Mr. Chan Wang Hong has been involved with various sectors since his graduation from electronics engineering. From electrical to production, software, server, network, system integration to product design, positioning, marketing, Mr. Chan has excelled in each one of these. Nowadays, he's actively involved with Acer's cloud computing and cloud edge device strategy, integration, and positioning in the Malaysian environment. In a fast-changing world of technology, he shares what it takes for the individual to succeed and mark their name in the industry. So please give him a round of applause as he begins his talk.
Thank you very much. I think the summary came very interestingly. I didn't submit this. The magic of internet. Okay, a very good morning, everyone. All right. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to join a very interesting adult learning session. I hope I can contribute a bit so that everybody learns something. And I myself, I do not believe that someone should actually have enough to learn. We're learning every day, and I'm also learning today, even right from people I meet, from the things I see. And of course, there are a lot of additional things that actually rolls into our life that force us to change and improve, and we learn in the process too, right? So just go through a little bit about the mundane stuff that Acer has, right? Just to introduce, since I work for Acer, just a short introduction about who is Acer before I go into the topic. I hope you don't mind, right? So our tagline now is actually breaking barriers between people and technology, right? Looking at Acer as a hardware company, we want to be able to interface with humankind much better. Technology should serve, assist, and continue to build us further in front. So from our years of founding from 1976, right, we've represented ourselves and expanded to 160 countries worldwide. And our focus is all the time about enabling a world where hardware and software and services will be able to infuse one another to open up new possibilities for consumers and for business users. Right? This has never left us. We always think about how it will benefit people. Right? So from that caring perspective, a lot of things actually sprang up. Right? So I'll cover a bit about those things, right? But in the meantime, what happened in this is in the world, and in Malaysia, we set up our office in 1990, right? And we quickly grew to 16 branches nationwide to connect with our customers. Malaysia is not a very huge country, but at that point of time, right, even now, some of these locations are geographically inaccessible. So we actually forced ourselves to get into that situation where we actually could connect and understand how everyone coexists in Malaysia, and how we can actually further develop our technology based on the needs of the population in Malaysia, right? So in the process, we have a little achievement, right? A lot of people supported Acer, and we get the chance to actually celebrate with them for getting the most number of computers shipped. This is audited by IDC, right? And we also get ourselves certified for services to make sure that our service is up to par, or not just talking about it. This, I'm talking about the after-sales service, right? Whether it's for individuals or for business, we care about how the service actually flow right through with every one of our clients, right? We also have local custom built to order facility, to work with large corporates who need very unique configuration on the devices, right? In the same time, we talk about green. We talk about, just now we were just having a chat, right? Malaysia is not doing enough about green technology, right? We on our side are committed from factory, how we use recycled plastics to make sure our monitors are actually not just beautiful, but they're green, suitable for every environment, and it's recyclable, right? Made of recycled plastics, made of even the packaging material is also most of the time made out of recycled paper, right? Where certain location can be used, we will always try to optimize that, right? We are also certifying ourselves for security for ISO 27000. This will ensure our customers' information are always protected. That's a little bit about Acer, right? Now, in terms of products, I think you saw some of this stuff. We've got from notebook, desktops, all-in-one projectors, servers for commercial users. We also continue to innovate ourselves to make ourselves continuously relevant, right? We created the world's thinnest laptop, right? We also put in liquid cooling for the 2-in-1 tablet, which is convertible to a laptop as well. We also created the world's most powerful gaming laptop, a 21-inch curved screen machine. We sold one the other day in Malaysia, about 40,000 ringgit, about the price of a car. But this is extremely interesting. We also brought these devices to certain location to let people experience that. And so far, the feedback was tremendous, right? We also created the world's first Chromebook together with Google, right? A cloud computing device. And that was one of the reasons why I saw that clip just now. We pulled it out and said, driving cloud. Yes, we are really driving the cloud business. We don't just do the cloud, but we also enable devices that will allow you to connect to the cloud securely and also fast, right? Chromebook came out in 2012, and by last year, in 4 year plus, it actually became a 60% market share of US K-12 market. It grew very, very fast, and the balance are from the traditional devices. So this is a very interesting product that actually help educators to move forward very, very fast. Right? Enough about those products. Just to share a short video about who is Acer and how passionate we are in terms of driving education.
Technology is everywhere. We experience it while we shop, when we socialize, every time there's a connection, every time we're learning something. It is a true digital revolution, working as an enabler and encouraging educators and students to embrace new learning opportunities and unexplored ways of spreading knowledge, to make education flexible, creative, and challenging. Our vision is to support an exploration beyond limits, giving access to the most up-to-date information in a quicker and easier way than ever before, helping schools to make an effective use of the new technological solutions to change the learning experience and manage the classrooms efficiently and safely. Here, the teacher becomes an encourager, an advisor, and a coach, preparing the pupils for the real-world environment in a unique, engaging way. Empowering collaboration and responsibility through a new kind of interaction between teachers and students is our aim. This is what we believe in, and this is how we do it. The strong contribution of our ecosystem of partners makes the mission possible every day. This is why we invest on the future, collaborating to achieve a collection of applications and tools designed to support learning and to improve problem solving, critical thinking, and digital literacy. With a wide product portfolio, Acer solutions address the needs of education at any level, enabling the exploration of all subjects in any situation and beyond classroom walls, making learning fun and engaging. From intuitive tablets for the primary school students to light and productive notebooks and Chromebooks for secondary school, and all the way up to the college and university students, for whom performing PCs meet the mobility and productivity needs, indoor and outdoor. A new way of learning is on its way here. Get ready for the future. Acer for Education. Explore, learn, share.
Sorry about that. Missed a bit of the fun. All right, thanks. So we've over the years we've actually ventured into a lot of things regarding education, and that's also an opportunity for us to learn a lot about how we can actually work together with our users, right? And it was very inspiring, and that actually brings us back to the topic that what I'm supposed to share, right? You are your best product. I was given the privilege to share this topic, and to be frank, I was not very prepared for this topic because it's kind of out of my league, right? So I actually gone in and look at this very subjectively, very, very specifically. In this context, what I'm going to be taking as an approach is to learn from people who actually came before me or before us, right? And also, this you is not me, but the organization. What Acer have actually journeyed through together with our customers and also our partners. And the product is how people perceive Acer as, right? From the context of Acer, not from the context of just me, right? So I hope I don't disappoint. I'll try. So from that perspective, a lot of time when we connect with public, everyone, right? We always point out that facts are very important. It determines our decision, right? It moves and it governs how we decide and lock things down. But in essence, from what I see all these years and how everybody worked with, the decision that we make are normally made with emotion. Why I say it's based on emotion? There are a few things that comes with this word. Why? We bring in historic feelings about the same decision that we make, right? So if we have been bitten before by a snake, we will not believe that snake can be a friend, right? So something like that. And also emotion also drives our decision. If we were to purchase something, thinking it's good, and we are going to be responsible for it for a long time. So that decision will also sunk in very, very deeply into our mind because it will be a tougher decision to make. So brand is directly emotionally linked to everyone's heart. Right? So I believe this is actually very critical if you approach the whole scenario. And from the person who should deliver that brand to the user, it has a very high responsibility also to not only like the cliche that people say, always under promise, over deliver, right? Sounds cliche, but I think over the years, what we've always been trying to strive internally ourselves is we must over deliver. Okay, whatever you promise, you must over deliver, or else this emotional attachment will impact everything that we do down the road. Some actually put this brand as a link towards the word reputation. Professionals like doctors, like lawyers, like accountants, reputation is extremely important. Now, on the other hand, if you look at a stock market trading, a company's goodwill, right? Or if you look at the shareholder equity, right? All those, we actually directly link back to the values that are in the organization, the brand itself, right? So for services, how fast, how good, how reputable we are, also very, very important. So this links directly to the brand. So let's learn something from our forefathers, people who actually came before us. Right? I'm sure you recognize this person, Richard Branson. He made a quote, right? Your brand name is only as good as your reputation, right? I hope you don't mind for me quoting him. I got a few more quotes from people that a lot of us already know. A lot of people link Richard Branson to how powerful the Virgin brand is and how diversified the business that actually the Virgin Group have actually ran through. But the branding that Virgin have been driving on actually connects deeply with every one of us, right? So branding is so essential because he treats it as his own reputation. He cares about it too so much that it is the essential driver of how the organization and also how the organization works internally and also outside, right? So what about this person, right? Reputation matters a lot too for him, right? You could take away, it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to destroy it. So I think we'll agree with that too, right? So this is a brand by itself, right? And being able to continuously strive to drive for the best, I feel it is what matters most, right? So with this obligation, with this necessity to govern ourselves, right? Would you want to carry a bad brand? Would you want to set a bad result for every commitment was made? So that I think every time we make a decision on driving, moving ourselves forward, that's a big question. Right. Next, I think I just read the news. He just sold $1 billion worth of share, right? Right. Jeff Bezos, Amazon founder, owner, right? He put brand differently. He put a brand for companies like a reputation for a person. You earn reputation by trying to do hard things well, right? Easy things everybody can do. Same thing if it's a promise. If everybody can do, you don't really need a promise. It's taken. It's a taken. You have to deliver those things, right? So for our company's case, like Acer's case, we've been through a lot of challenges from the time when we actually came into Malaysia, right? Early days, transportation is a major issue, right? Communication is a big problem. We don't have internet so easily available like us. Last time, I remember when I first joined Acer, after it was already in Malaysia, internet has to be accessed through dial-up modems, right? So that tells you how old I am also, right? Right, so dial-up modems are slow. There are a lot of things that can't be done. And mails used to be just pure text, right? No such thing as linking to the cloud, sharing video, right? But it is essential. Things are hard, but if you are determined, right, and it is the goal that we want to achieve, and it's a promise that we make to the customer, right, we have to push through. Even today, e-commerce, right? E-commerce is coming into Malaysia heavily, right? I think you saw the digital free trade zone announcement, right? So Malaysia is taking a leap forward, right? Some will like it, some will not like it, right? Some company will run out of business, some will become stronger. So if we choose to go towards achieving the goal of actually having the best possible brand, all right, experience, you'll probably have a chance to become him, right? And this guy, everybody know him, right? You need the right people with you, not just the best people, right? I think this is very true. It might go sideways with your focus, right? But maybe let's just try to explain what I look at this word mean. Acer doesn't always have the best team player in-house. We believe in training, right? We believe in teamwork. We believe in working together. Same thing. Don't just look at an organization. We look at ourselves individually. Would all of you know how to play Dota 2 as a game? Yes. I can see Dota 2 fans. I have something for you later. How about League of Legends? Who don't know what I was talking about? Okay, I'm sure there will be. Right, so there are people who know certain things very well, certain people who know other things very well. I too have my shortcomings, right? And it's the team that actually help us become a better brand as a company itself, right? So everyone has a role to play, but the most important thing that we cannot be short of, right, is the determination, the commitment, right? That everyone who is part of the team to move forward, right? So a brand, from what I was trying to relate, is it's something that we all have to work together, to build together, and to achieve together with the customers, right? So this is what we've been doing, right, over the years, right? I think you recognize him too, right? So in one of the interview, right, when they were talking about passion, I remember Steve Jobs, well, actually said this: you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing, because it is hard as an entrepreneur, right? It's very hard, right? If you don't, right, any rational person will just give up and say, no, this is not for me. And if everything is no, it's not for me, what will happen to the customers? It's a broken promise between the company and the user, right? So you can't say, I don't know, you take care of it. It has to be settled. It has to be worked through, right? And that actually builds a lot of relationship, a lot of positive emotion with the, whether it's a benefactor, which is a customer, or a victim, if you don't carry through the promise, right? A victim will never come back again, right? A benefactor may come back, right? But we always want to strive to make sure that we can deliver the best that we could to everyone, right? So for me, I look at brand, right, emotionally attached, driven, moving forward, right, as essential for us in this world economy now. It used to be that I get to know you is a handshake. Oops, sorry. My fault. I set an alarm. It was not silenced by the phone. Sorry about that. So it used to be that I get to know you is with a handshake, or we get to meet each other. We call it networking. But today, most of the people we get to know are through online. It is highly uncommon for someone to have more than 1,000 friends on Facebook. We don't get to touch them, get in touch with them, not physically touch them. You get in touch with them, really interact, and get to know them, right? You don't have to be like an influencer in order to have more than 1,000 friends online, right? Throughout the years when you're going to spend your time here, right, for the students, right, you will get to know more than 1,000 people, right? And that's very, very important. Having a brand is so essential. It used to be in old school, management school, they would say, if you're not the number one brand or number two brand in the market, you will cease to exist down the road because you do not have the economy of scale. Then when Google come out, when someone search about your a related business and your company don't pop up in the top 10 lists, you're irrelevant. People won't know you, won't be able to click you. Down the road, what we're looking at is the interface, right? It's no longer something like a Web 1.0, where I go to a place, sorry, where you tell me who you are, right? Web 2.0 actually introduced an opportunity for everyone to share everything. In e-commerce world, when you want to buy something, right? What are the few criteria that you actually go through, besides the specification, besides the price, before you make a decision to buy? I'm sure some of you actually checks the stars, a 1-star and a 5-star guy. The 5-star person, although charge you a little bit more, you still be more driven towards buying from them, right? Now, on the other hand, if you have made out your decision, more or less, and you click through, and you look at that 2-star, 3-star supplier, because they are the only one, and you see a chain of complaints. Well, as you can see, right? You react to it. So that's my reaction too. You're gonna be kidding me, you know? I wouldn't place my order on this person, because although you could be reputable, some people might like you, but the chain of complaint deters me from making my emotional decision to buy into that brand. So it's very, very critical. So having a online, live, instant feedback e-commerce market brand is even more essential, because it used to be that marketing was about not knowing and knowing something, right? It's confusion of information. Like company who have more money to spend to be able to reach out to more people will automatically cover their shortcomings. Today's marketing cost online is so small, and it's so easy to move from just a local market to an international market. Right? So branding is every inch more important now in the digital economy. So how can we do further? Right? Talent is about winning game, right? One game, right? It could accidentally become a success. But for us to win a championship, to win in the long run, right, it is absolutely essential to be able to carry together with a team and the intelligence, you know, to work together to win. Michael Jordan, one of the best basketball players in the world. Right. So I'd like to emphasize that what happened with Acer all this time was not an individual effort. Not me, not one person. It's about the team to work together to build this together. And it's not about spending more money on marketing. Automatically, you get that business. Right? The services guy work through the challenges to make sure to deliver every promise and more to every one of our clients. Right? So I'm coming to the end of my speech. This is actually a video. I'm a bit early, right? Hope this works. Right? So a short video about what's moving next, about a product that is more emotional driven than specification and price driven. Right? Just a little short clip. Something interesting. Are you familiar with this brand? Predator. It's just 3 years old. It's already number 1 in 8 of the world's market, and it's currently number 3 in Malaysia. Right? We created this not because of just trying to market it like crazy, invest a lot and try to drive emotion. We know that it's emotional, right? I think gamers, you probably can feel, right, the attachment to the brand that you prefer. It may not be Predator, right? We put in a lot of technology into this. We basically took up our vault of intellectual property, design, creation, inventions, stuff like that, and put in a whole bunch of stuff in there. And it was very, very costly to make machines, which are extremely, extremely good. but we owe it to ourselves. You know, if you want to be able to share with everyone that we have something good, it must be good in the first place. So we just started a competition, right? Regional competition this year. We'll be launching it. There's prize money. The top Malaysian playing team will get to participate in Jakarta or regional gaming competition. It's Dota 2, right? This is actually the official announcement for us to join League of Legends, LOL, worldwide. We are their partner last year, and partner this year, and we're looking at partnering with them next year as well. Right? League of Legends is quite interesting in a market outside of Malaysia. Right? Malaysia, I think LOL has less followers. Right? So it was quite fun. It was quite fun to do this. And this product, because it's highly emotional, because even in our office, there are people who like to play role-playing game like Counter-Strike versus Dota 2, right? And they will go in like, oh, why do we do the Dota 2? You know, why don't we do a racing game? You know, things like that. So, yeah. By the way, it's legal to play games in Acer's office. Right? We call it work. Okay. Right. That's not to encourage everyone to chill out and look for a job in Acer. Right. Right. So we'll be hiring if we need, right? And you can check our website. Okay. The best is yet to come, right? Do we do Q&A or no? Right. Yeah. Okay. If you got any questions, yeah, I got a little bit gap on time. Right. If any question, I can answer some. No? Yes? You just... No question? Oh, that's good. I can hear you.
Thank you for the presentation. So my question is, to what extent do you think brand has changed from what companies now tell consumers and potential consumers to what consumers now tell each other about the company? Like, there's been more of a transition from brand is what the company tells everyone that it is, and now and you alluded to this in your presentation about how it's now more about consumers rating companies, and that's much more visible, and it's more about consumers communicating with one another, and that defines brand. So how much do you think that's, you know, the shift between what companies are saying versus what consumers are saying to one another?
Very tricky question. I don't have exact figures. I can share with you what we're doing. It used to be that Acer spends a substantial amount on print advertisement, which most of us don't read anymore, right? Magazines, newspaper, things like that. And we shifted a lot over to digital, right? Which could be targeted, right? Like we could specifically look for a specific age group, gender. We could look for preference. For example, I only want to be able to connect with moviegoers, people who like to play games, right? People who like to see fashion items, and we can see that interaction happening, right? So those are the more of the 1.0 method where we push out information. And normally, if you look at print, the person with the loudest or the most amount of marketing budget would normally reach out to more people. In digital space, it need not necessarily be the case, because you could put in more money, but if the topic is irrelevant, right, the user won't see it, you won't click on it, and as the time goes, you get degraded. There's something called a Q score, a quality score. Right? If you just keep popping up in front of you and you don't click on it, it's irrelevant to you, right? So when it's downgraded, no matter how much money you put in, right, you won't get connected back. Now that's still on the push out side, where we actually spend to bring up the brand. On the other hand, if you look at the brand awareness, like forum, right, where people chat with each other, someone might spring up a point, and then other people comment on it. It might be a forum that we don't even know, right? Or it could be something like WeChat, for example, where everybody is talking to each other, and you can see, right? You can see the trend and see the pattern. I'll just relate back to one case. Happened about 4 weeks ago. Or 4 weeks ago. I won't name this university. All right. Is located. We've got heavily hammered. Right. Actually, all the brand was heavily knocked on. Not as a bad thing, but just mentioned. Right. It's like knock knock. You don't know whether it's friend or foe, or it's blue or it's going to be green. Right. So what happened is there was these two students. One of them actually have a broken laptop and they're sharing. Right. So they're not very well off. So one of them took apart the unit and they call it a cardboard computer. Ring a bell? Some of you probably already saw that, right? Right, a cardboard computer. So they took a screen and put it on the top part of the cardboard, the keyboard on the bottom part, fix the motherboard, change power supply, do a whole bunch of stuff. And his friend actually posted that online. Yeah, you saw that? That's very interesting, right? And we look at the feedback charts, right? The time we don't even know who he is, and through this feedback system, we actually saw that everybody was impacted. I mean, in terms of IT brand, because it's really computer related, and nobody took action. Nobody. So we call up a whole bunch of people, or search and find out. It was mainly on Twitter. So we try to find out where this person is because we want to help them. You see, this got nothing to do with monetary value. It's just the passion for the business, right? We didn't think about like if you do something, you get a reward back. Nothing, right? It's just about feeling the pain that the person actually gone through, and we saw that in the systems, right? So we went hunting, we found the person, right? We brought a laptop and go and meet up with the principal, right? So the principal said, "Why don't we prank him?" That part I think probably didn't hit the internet. Right? I have the video for that, right? So what happened is the principal called the student in and said, "You did something wrong, and you're gonna get a penalty for it." So in the terms of padding, right? Our team came in and gave him a laptop, and it was very, very emotional for him, for us too, right? Because we did donation before, right? We give back before, but nothing so dramatic about this. This is for him. It was a gift that actually helped his studies to complete. And after that, we didn't touch anything. We didn't do marketing. We didn't do anything. And again, the communication online went nuts again, right? So you see, when things go crazy, it's very difficult for us to understand what's actually happening to the customers, right? So for 1 week, people were just talking about that. So I think if you're really passionate and really believe about a brand, you should do a lot more than what people ask us to do, right? So whether it's for monetary return or not, a brand carry with it a lot of qualities. And moving towards the future of digital, right? Whether it's direct spending, indirect spending, I think the most important thing is our heart, what we want to do. And being able to go digital also helps because if you are keen and want to do it, you will find a way to do it. That's where the team actually comes in. I hope I answered your question. Thank you. Any other question? Right. Yes.
How do you ensure that your market is viable, and how do you ensure that in the event of the market is fluctuated, you don't know whether you're in, you're out, you're relevant or not. How do you stay viable and relevant in the next future?
Very good question again. If I can tell you exactly, I'll probably make a lot of money. Right? Whether we are relevant and how do we stay relevant? Right? The market will be there for us to be relevant or not. If you look at when tablet was launched, when iPad was launched, the post PC era term was coined. right? And yes, tablet went up, it shoot off the roof. PC went down. Even in Malaysia, for example, you look at this year's figure versus last year. In the retail space, market went down by 30%. It's like 1/3 of the shop, the business is no longer there. And the year before actually dropped tremendously too. Yes, the PC market have actually shrank a lot. But if you look at how that trigger of the tablet going up and the PC coming down, the tablet was killed by phablets. When we have high resolution enough mobile phones, people don't want to carry the tablet no more. So that caused the tablet to go down. Tablet has a very short life cycle and it's pretty irrelevant now. But it sets a good example if we compare why are people still having computers today? I think two-part. One, the mobile devices that we have doesn't have enough computing power or the migration of solution softwares into it enough to allow you to replace the PC altogether. All right. There are other factors, smaller ones, like for example security. They don't let you carry the data off the premise in a work environment, right? But the computing power we get from a laptop or desktop today is still way more than what a phone can do. That's why some of the software company couldn't move in there. What we saw as a slow or decline of the market is basically users are stretching the life cycle of the product. Instead of buying a new one in every 2 years, I buy a new one in 5 years. So the person who owned the computer still use the computer, right? So then the other aspect we are looking at is also have the computer manufacturers stop innovation. If we stopped, we should be penalized. If we still have like what Henry Ford said, if I ask the customers, they'll tell me a faster carriage, not a car. Right, so today probably will be still riding on horse carriage, probably very nicely designed ones, right? So this innovation must be always instilled within the organization. Like for example, in Acer's case, why we challenge ourselves with the gaming product? Because it allows us to put the best thing in there. Like the 21X model, for example, Predator 21X, we made 300 units worldwide. We put 2 graphic cards in there. And we put this overclocking processor in there. And we put in all the stuff like, for example, eye tracker technology, where you can actually move your eyes and you can actually control the games. Why did we do something like this? It's to challenge ourselves. And also allow the next generation who comes in to propagate and improve that further. To make sure that if the PC industry are still relevant, could be relevant because somebody is bringing in this. So like for example, we have this series, a lower end gaming model. We call it used to call it a Acer V Nitro series. We just call it Nitro now, right? For lesser complexity. The Nitro series actually has something very interesting with it. It used to be just plug in a higher end processor and a better graphic card, and you could play most of the games in the market, right? We didn't think it's enough, right? It's an entry, but why do you want to give the worst things to the entry guy? And the entry guy deserves some respect, and that's one of the items we put in overclocking graphic, not just overclocking on the processor, but the graphic. And this machine is very tame. You can really use this in the office, and nobody really notices it, right? A more tame type of gaming machine. But it's very fast, right? So then it gives the Predator team a huge challenge. It's like, hey, your brother can spell better than you. So the children game, right? So if we don't internally push ourselves, how can we go further, right? So this other stuff. Like for example, when we started off to do a gaming laptop, for example, our CEO actually set a chart, a level for us. Other people do gaming laptop with liquid cooling. And if you say it's a laptop, you ought to be able to sit on my lap. I ought to be able to carry it around, right? Yeah, doesn't make sense, doesn't it? Right, so liquid cooling means another box, right? So it's not a laptop, you know? So what we did was we innovate like mad to create a special design fan that actually can cool the machine down so much. It's 35% more efficient than whatever you can find in the market. What is Acer, a computer company, doing in cooling technology? It's not our forte, right? But we saw that it is necessary to enable A to get B, C, and D. Right? So staying relevant is also a individual or a brand or company effort, right? To continuously innovate and give additional value to whoever who believe in us, right? Then there will be a surviving chance for that market, right? If the PC industry just really died, at least we died trying. Sorry, lack of a better term. All right. So rather than we just give up. Did I answer your question? Okay, I think that's all the time I have today. Okay, glad to be able to see you all. All right, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chan Weng Hong, for your interesting and informative talk. As a token of appreciation for Mr. Chan Weng Hong's time and his valuable contribution today, may I call upon Ms. Stella Lau, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Master University, to present a gift to our honorable speaker. Thank you, Ms. Stella, and thank you, Mr. Chan. We will now have a short break for 5 minutes and resume soon. Thank you.
ఇది ఆపేసే పెట్టా ఇది పెట్టకు ఈ ఫోన్ లో పెట్టుకో ఇంకా నెట్ అప్లోడింగ్ స్లో అవుతుంది అవి తీసేసాయి నువ్వు ఇదేమో ఆఫీస్ అందుకే చేయొచ్చు అసలు దాంట్లో చేసేది నువ్వేంది మాత్రం ఆఫీస్ తీసేసి నెట్ స్లో అవుతుంది ఛార్జింగ్ అయితే చాలే రేపు అది పవర్ ఎక్స్టెన్షన్ తెచ్చి ఇప్పుడు ఒకటి ఎన్ని తీసుకుంటాను
You're staying somewhere nearby? Oh, okay, okay. Join us at fun then. Sorry? In what area? Just send us your application and straight uh, 11 plus 1. 11 modules plus 1 project. Most of the this is only a project paper, that's why it's not so big. So that's why my students like doing the semester before that, they actually doing the business research. Like will be able, should be able to complete each other. Just try to find
Actually, how is
yeah, next week. I wanted this week, project. So from there, I'll sekarang mau you can probably yeah, put it like because you probably believe you have to get a software, all right? You have to translate the scripts when you go on the road.
but seriously, if you look at
That is not qualification.
so the first thing, so I also asked the same question because you know why? You don't want your partner to get it's not your friend. Think about it. So
Even this hospital, they relate it. If you do it like full time, but actually,
and then another one we can do 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. We will be beginning in a short period of time, so I request whoever is still outside to please come and be seated. Good afternoon, everyone. I request everyone to please be kindly seated so we can resume our program. Please be seated as we want to resume our program. I request everyone once again to please be seated so we can begin the program. Now I would like to invite Mr. Leigh Howard to share his views about what do employers really want. Please give him a round of applause. Mr. Leigh Howard has 22 years of international business experience and 18 years in global human resource consulting and recruitment. Mr. Leigh was previously director in South Asia for Talent2 International Limited. Mr. Leigh founded the Kuala Lumpur office when he joined the company in 2006, and then it grew to more than 100 staff across executive recruitment, volume workforce solutions, payroll, physiometric assessment. Prior to joining Talent2, Mr. Leigh spent 3 years as the managing director of an international consulting firm. Mr. Leigh's previous experience also includes the role of consulting manager in Singapore and consulting roles in Sydney and Dubai, as well as UAE. Originally from Australia, Mr. Leigh worked for 4 years with the Commonwealth Government, with his last role as manager for fraud and AMP compliance. He will share with us the needs of his clients and what they really look for in executive talent. Please give him a round of applause as he begins his talk.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Did you get all that? There's a test later. I'm joking. Thank you for your attendance here today on a topic that I live with every day. So in part of my role, I work with companies and I help them with recruitment. That's essentially what we do. And what employers want is a daily activity for us. Let me start with some audience participation. Hands up if you've had a full-time job before or are currently in a full-time job. I know the whole front row is going to put their hand up. The whole back row has got their hands down. Okay. Hands up if you've had a part-time job before. Okay. So all those people who, hands down, it's all right. All those people who have had a job and went for a job interview, hands up if you enjoy going for job interviews. And being interviewed, not doing the interview. Very different, very different, very different when you're on the other side of the table. So today's presentation, we're going to jump around, we're going to do lots of things, and we're going to try and stay with me as we try and explore this very wide-ranging question about what do employers want. So I know you got my formal bio, and I know it was very interesting to read and to hear all about that, but I thought I'd break it into just a couple of key points so you know a little bit about me. So it is correct. I'm originally from Australia, and there's proof. This is proof positive that I am Australian because I've got a photo with my family in front of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. I left Australia in 1998. I went to Dubai to seek my fortune. and worked there for a year. I then did actually go back to Australia for a couple of years. I then moved to Singapore, spent about 2 years in Singapore, had a job in New Zealand, of all places. And then I actually 13 years ago, I came to Malaysia for a holiday, and I haven't left. And Malaysia's been very good to me, and in that time I've worked across the HR field in different roles. I've been running international recruitment businesses for just under 20 years. So obviously been in different countries, but built some businesses, so a bit of an entrepreneurial streak, and worked with some really great teams and some really cool people as we engage with employers and candidates for jobs. And another hat that I wear, which is worth talking about, is 3 years ago I was elected chairman of the Malaysia Australia Business Council, which is essentially the Australian Chamber of Commerce in Malaysia. We have about 750 people, individual members. They cover companies, they cover individual business people. And that's been an amazing role, a very privileged role, to give me great insight in terms of what businesses are thinking and what are the challenges they face as they try and do business. We do an annual survey. The top response in Malaysia for challenges for business amongst our members is always access to skilled talent. So government issues, currency volatility, all of those things take second place and third place to talent issues. But what really gets me going is this thing that we now call the future of work. So there's a lot of talk about what's happening in the workplace. There's a lot of talk about how employment relationships have changed, and I'll touch on that in my presentation. But I do get invited to give a few presentations about topics in this space. About the company I currently run. So this is Sheffield Executive. We're a talent solutions provider. We started in recruitment. We started doing headhunting, which some of you may have heard of, which is where we go and get the best people and bring them over to our clients. But we also have moved into broader talent solutions. We run a training business as well to help clients get better ROI on the people that they hire, and to really get involved with the HR community around their people challenges and their people needs. The best way to describe this, we just did a new website, so I thought I'd get some ROI on having developed a new website. This is the homepage, and we tried to capture everything we do in one page. It's always hard to sometimes articulate everything that a company does, but these are all of the solutions that we provide. So when clients come to our website, they can see all of the different things that we do. And we also obviously have a section for candidates as well if they want to be part of our network. So on to the question, what do employers want? So apologies to the academics in the room for the validity of this survey, but what I decided to do was, when I first had this question, I think it was about maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago that I was first asked this, and in preparation I thought I'll get ahead of the curve and I'll ask my LinkedIn network. So I put it up there, what do employers want? And I got the following responses. They want grit, was the first reply. Determination, willpower, thirst for knowledge, English. Do you guys get beaten up for English? Everyone talks about Malaysian graduates and their English these days. Adaptability, teamwork, and the list went on and on and on. It didn't stop. I finally got this response, everything. I thought, well, that sums up the presentation pretty easily. I can just go and put a slide that says what do Malaysian employees want? Everything. And that'll take care of it. The truth of the matter is that the responses are endless. You ask a different person, even someone who's an employer or someone who's in HR, they'll give you a different response every time. And it would be easy to be weighed down by the list of responses that you would get. So is this a hard question to answer? I don't think it's a hard question to answer, but I do think it's a question that's got a lot of different parts. So in today's presentation, what we're going to do is we're going to try and segment those parts and go through them. And I think there'll be something in it for each of you. Each of you might take something different away from today's presentation. So I've broken it down, and what we're going to do today in the presentation is go through all of these different segments one by one and answer the question, what do employers want, from a different perspective as you go through the HR cycle. But But first I thought I'd start with what do employers don't want. This is, again, apologies to the academics room. I'm not quite sure if this qualifies as the null hypothesis, but this is what employers don't want. Someone has pressed something.
João, ainda estás? Vai para casa, João. É melhor, é melhor.
Toda a gente vai querer passar mais tempo em casa. Chegou aí, Ken.
There we have him, Employee of the Month. Isn't that guy great? I've worked with people like that. So that's what we don't want. So that's a bit of humour, but let's move on to the question about what we do want. So as a background to the world of work, it's important that we talk about some of the trends that are shaping work and what's happening, because we know the whole world is moving faster. We just had a presentation on technology and how things are moving forward, and we're seeing this in every aspect of our life, and the world of work is no different. So what we've identified is that there are some key mega trends, some big influences that are shaping the world of work. So just over 20 years ago, some very smart people from a company called McKinsey coined this phrase called the war for talent. And basically the concept was that companies were now actively competing for the best and brightest in the workforce, and that there was literally a war taking place, or figuratively a war taking place, that companies now would be competing very aggressively for the best talent because it made the biggest difference to their companies. So the war for talent referred to companies fighting one another. Ironically, what's come out of that is that talent was the winner, because talent is now king. This is a employee market for the top 10%. The top 10% of the workforce doesn't worry about having a job. They don't worry necessarily about looking for a job, because there's enough people tapping on their shoulder and hunting them down. What's also changed in the world of work is that, I use this phrase, loyalty is out and learning is in. What does that mean? What it means is, decades ago, people had this concept of lifetime employment. And what we've seen as we've moved through generations, that time has gotten shorter and shorter and shorter. And so you had a situation where there was a high degree of loyalty between employers and employees, and they worked together for a long time. But there's been a change in that pattern. The employment cycles are a lot shorter, and so loyalty has evaporated from the employment relationship to a large extent. What has replaced it is the concept of learning. Most employees come into a company, particularly if I refer to millennials come into a company, they look for what they can learn, what skills they can pick up, and the focus is on, am I learning in this environment? Once I've stopped learning, I'm going to start looking. This is another interesting change in the world of work. Used to be that you would see a job ad in the newspaper, you would pull out a typewriter or a word processor, depending on your vintage. You would have your resume typed, you would type a nice cover letter, you'd put it in a thing called an envelope, you'd put a stamp on it, and you'd post that application off, and you would hope for a response. The internet has changed that in two ways. One is we don't use the mail anymore, we apply for jobs in a different way. But for any of you who are registered with JobStreet or another job board, you actually have jobs coming to you. Jobs are now applying for people. That's a massive change. I'm good friends with many of the guys who started JobStreet, and I had a conversation with them one time about we were receiving too many irrelevant applications to our job postings. And I said, this is a bit of a problem. It's too easy for people to apply. They have their resume online, it's ready to go. Press of a button, I've applied for this job. So they went away about 6-7 weeks. They came back to me and they said, Lee, good news. We've now put a cap on the number of jobs that people can apply for. We've capped it at 40 jobs a month. I'm not sure if that is progress of a kind, but if you've got candidates applying for 40 jobs a month, close to 500 jobs a year, then you've got different issues than you had back in the day. So jobs now apply for people. I talked about job for life, we talked about loyalty, but what's also changing is that not only now are cycle times getting shorter in terms of duration of employment and retention, but what we're seeing is the emergence of more people in freelance work, people who are contract workers, and where we're essentially heading in the future is probably people who don't have just one employer. Okay, there's going to be a large part of the workforce that does, but you're going to see a much larger group of people that have multiple employers or are selling their skills or their ability to contribute to multiple employers. The other big change that's coming down the pipeline is digitisation, increasing focus on technology, and what gets a lot of conversation, what gets a lot of airtime now at conferences about the future of work is about robotic process automation. This is the next level of digital revolution coming into the workforce, and the role of AI. So what you've had previously in earlier industrial revolutions, you've had the introduction of factories and technology. We've had IT come in and make things software programs make things a lot easier, a lot more efficient. What's changing now with AI is you're now getting robots, for want of a better word, that can talk to one another. So that's increasing the level of work, the types of tasks that they can complete, can conduct, and that's going to have a big impact on the world of work. It's going to have a big impact on workforces. It's going to change professions dramatically. So we'll go through each of these perspectives. I'm happy to take questions as they come, in fact. So if you see something you don't understand, don't be shy, stick your hand up and ask me a question. So what do employees want from an industry perspective? So where are the jobs of the future? This gets a lot of attention as well. By and large, what we're seeing in workforces at a industry level is a shift to services. So from primary industry, secondary industry, there's a big focus on services. Now, I'm not saying that primary industry and secondary industry aren't big. Food is important, mining is important, resources are important, manufacturing is important, but they become a lot less labour intensive. So the jobs of the future are quite specialised in those areas. There's not as much employment in primary and secondary industry there used to be, and so in services is where we're seeing a lot of the job growth. The rankings in terms of where jobs of the future are, these are the three that are commonly cited by a lot of studies. So technology, I don't think anyone would disagree. Healthcare, I didn't just put that in, that was literally there. And home and building services. So what we're seeing is that when people want services around their home, around their life, they still want a lot of human interaction. And in fact, as wealth increases, people are increasing their desire to have more services around the house. They talk about jobs that will be replaced by technology. I don't think arborists have anything to worry about. I think there are certain jobs that you still need a person to come and deliver that work. Jobs in decline. Don't be too worried if you do work in one of these areas, but transport is one that's becoming less labour intensive. I think the biggest change we might feel in our lives in the next 5 years is going to be something like driverless cars. That is something that is in the realm of science fiction, but we've seen so many things that were in the realm of science fiction become real life. And I think that's something that's going to dramatically change our lives personally, but also commercially. So we talk about, car ownership will change. Your commute to the office or to university will change. If you can pick up your Uber and that doesn't even need a driver, it means you're going to have a lot more Ubers. If you look at trucking, I know even Tesla's got in the pipeline their first electronic truck that's meant to, it's not a bit behind schedule, but it's meant to be coming out. Volkswagen, this is really interesting. Volkswagen recently announced that their driverless cars would be underwritten by the company for any accidents to give assurance to people who purchase the car. So if you're if you buy a Volkswagen that eventually is a driverless car, has AI driving, they'll underwrite any accidents that occur. That's a massive change. It's also a massive change if you're working in the insurance industry, because that now eliminates a whole category of insurance you might have been selling before. Accounting and legal. Most people who work in accounting and most people who work in legal, I'll pick on legal as an example, most people who work in legal are not barristers that you see on TV or in movies. They're not standing up in their devilishly good-looking suits shouting, "You can't handle the truth." That's not what most lawyers do. Most lawyers are sitting there working on contracts, they're in-house counsel. These are the types of jobs that are actually going to be threatened by a lot of RPA and AI in the future. So we are going to see some decline. It's predicted that there'll be a decline in these areas. So what do employers want from the enterprise perspective? So by enterprise perspective, I mean at a company level, what do companies want? And my commentary here would be that not all employers are equal. And for those of you who are yet to enter the workforce, it's probably useful to share with you the differences between different types of employers. So the private sector, the biggest employer in the world, the private sector, we see differences in the types of companies. So a lot of people think of multinational brands and the big companies, and there are companies that employ 100,000 people, but in aggregate, they don't employ as many people as small companies. Most of you will end up working for small companies. And there are big differences. Multinationals, particularly when they're hiring graduates, are very competency focused. What do I mean by that? They'll look for your ability to learn, your ability to acquire competencies, and they'll train you in their specific industry. So they're happy, they don't need you to have the specific skills that a small employer would want. A small employer, when you start work or when you go through the interview process, is very much going to ask you, what can you do for me today? If I employ you, what can you do? And you'll feel that in a very immediate sense. You'll be put to work a lot more quickly in a small company than in a big company. Public sector. The public sector is the biggest hire of graduates, generally speaking. So most graduate programs are in government, but the government is changing. Governments are modernising around the world. They are big. They are sometimes a little bit slow moving to modernise, but when they move, there are big shifts that take change. A lot of government or a lot of public services are accused of being too big, too people heavy. And there is a push for governments to reduce their headcount, but it's hard because it has political impact as well. Not-for-profit. This is a really interesting sector because it's a niche sector, and it just says a lot about human motivation, because working in the non-for-profit sector, salaries aren't high. They're in fact some of the lowest paying companies around, but the competition to join not-for-profit is so fierce that people who have a passion for the cause or the mission of that not-for-profit are often strongly devoted to the social cause of that not-for-profit organisation. So it's really interesting. I've done work for not-for-profits. I've recruited for them, and money's not the motivator, that's for sure. Finally, what we're seeing come out is a new type of enterprise, which is worth mentioning, which is the social enterprise. And it seems a bit timely, but it seems to borrow the different factors from different types of the organisations above. So what do social enterprises do? Social enterprises are organisations that have a social mission. They are ones that utilise private company imperatives and goals. They run like a private sector business, but they reinvest their profits or their earnings back into either the organisation or the social mission for which that organisation was established. Now, in the startup world of sort of digital companies, a lot of digital companies express that they have a very strong social mission to the point that they are a social enterprise. So one that allows people to come in and work might talk about, oh, our mission is to give everyone the chance to participate in this part of the economy where they couldn't do it before. It's not big, but it is growing, and it's something you'll hear a lot more about because everyone thinks it's quite funky. So what do employers want from job applicants? So I talked about resumes and applying for jobs, and I don't think so much effort has been put into something that gets probably about a 20 or 30 second airtime now from employers. People obsess about their resumes. They obsess about the typing, the space, the font, let alone the content of what goes into their resume. But what people do want, what employers do want from job applications is applications that are relevant to the job. And what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is that they look for resumes that are tailored. They look for resumes that stand out. They look for people who've taken the time and the trouble and the effort to learn something about the organisation and to translate that into content within their resume. So there's nothing worse than working in the recruitment field and receiving a job application and it has a cover letter and the cover letter is addressed to the wrong company. But you get that. Or you get people who've left something in the job application and they haven't changed it, they haven't updated it. It's like insert company here, those types of things. It just doesn't go down very well. Because of the number of applications, the time that recruiters spend on applications is shortened dramatically. Okay, and the way you need to highlight and present yourself, the way you need to package yourself, makes a big difference. Because it might sound depressing, but if a recruiter receives over 100 resumes online, and Monster, JobStreet, these types of portals make it very easy to preview the job application rather than reading the whole document, rather than having to open the file. They will zip through those files really quickly. So the top of your resume, I tell you what, don't make the top of your resume a 5-line postal address or residential address, because that's like a newspaper using its key advertising space to put mundane details about the company. It's brand space, if you like, that could be used for selling yourself. What else can we talk about with resumes? I'm really interested how when resumes do get past that initial sort of preview, when employers or recruiters want to read the resume, how much they look for standout achievements. So there's degrees, there's work experience, but then they really do look for the personal achievements. What's going to make this candidate different? What's going to make this candidate interesting to meet? A resume is like a passport. It lets you access the interview. And then that's a whole new ballgame, which we'll talk about next. So the purpose of the resume is to get you in the door. So as I say, don't use the top of your resume to be putting long residential addresses. Think about what achievements you can highlight. Think about personal achievements. Think about leadership roles you've held in, your social life or associations or other organisations that you've had. It doesn't always need to be work related. And this is the concern we get from a lot of graduates. I don't have work experience. What do I write there? It's like this thin piece of paper that I just sort of wave around and it's got 10 lines on it. There will be achievements. There will be projects you've worked on. There'll be things that are relevant to employers and relevant to the workplace. And it's important you think about that and you stand back and you put those onto your resume. A couple of don'ts. If you're applying for jobs online and there's a question, don't skip it. When I post jobs online, I've got a stock standard question, which is, it's a template question. It's my favourite one, and I just put it on all job application processes, which is, why should I hire you? Very open question. Gives a candidate an opportunity to talk about themselves, talk about work, take it wherever they want to go. I'm also as much interested in their thought process and the structure of their information as I am in the content of the information. The response that I don't like is, please refer to my resume. That is a wasted opportunity. I've said to someone, why should I hire you? A good answer will get them into an interview. An answer like that is an instant rejection. Don't use text talk. This is something, I don't know if I'm getting old now, but don't use SMS speak in your cover letter, in your email that you might be sending the resume attached with. So you can have a great resume. You've had it proofread by people that you trust, but then your cover email is abbreviated words and things like that as well. It doesn't work in the professional world. Don't have spelling mistakes. Unprofessional email ID. So if someone's applying for a head of corporate governance and their email address is partygirl97@hotmail.com, it doesn't go down well. So think about your email address. Update your social media. Now, I'm going to say update your social media in two regards. One is, if you have a LinkedIn profile, update it so it matches what's in your resume. Make sure that the two correlate. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, go create a LinkedIn profile, please. It's the easiest thing in the world. It's a great way to be found. The second thing for social media is those photos on Facebook. I tell you, the recruitment software guys are coming for your Facebook account. They love it. So what happens now is, this is amazing. We key in a candidate's name. There are apps that give us your latest 5 postings from all social media. So if you happen to be out on Friday night and perhaps it was a little bit late and perhaps you had 1 or 2 drinks and you put those photos on Facebook, they are instantly in the recruiter's inbox on Monday. Okay. We'll leave it there. No, but it's true. So these guys, there are recruitment software companies out there now who are trying to collate your online profile and present it to me as a package. That's the product they're offering me right now. The final point on job applications is follow up. Don't send it and forget. Follow up. Follow up with a phone call. Follow up with an email. It doesn't matter if I'll slightly qualify this, but you cannot be too annoying. You sort of can, but you cannot be too annoying to follow up on job applications to get that interview. As I say, the purpose of the application is to get your foot in the door, get the interview. It's a whole new ball game from there. So what do employers want at an interview? Well, they want a great first impression. They want you looking sharp. They want you looking good. Don't obsess too much. I remember going for my first job interview. I did work for the government, but before that I had an interview with a consulting firm to the government. I'm pretty sure I was wearing at least one of my father's pieces of clothing. I think it might have been his tie, maybe an oversized shirt. I'm not quite sure. And I went for that interview and I considered myself well-groomed. It is important to be well-groomed, but it's not everything. It's just a piece of the puzzle. Okay. I later found out that job went to the managing director's nephew. So no matter how good my dad's tie was, I was never going to get that job. So the great first impression, grooming, be presentable, don't be shy, put your hand out, have a handshake. You want to relax the interviewer. You want to make them feel good. You want to make them feel good about meeting you. Interviews are still very much of people, they're a person-to-person interaction. So it is about your interpersonal skills. So what you want to do in the course of an interview is you want to do 2 things. You want to demonstrate your suitability for the job. There's a bit of a tip I use on this one, but you also want to build a relationship. You want someone to remember you and to invite you back for the next round or whatever the part of the process is. So in the course of the interview, whenever I get a question, what I'm really asking someone is, why should I give you this job? So if I ask you, what are your key strengths? As a candidate, as an interviewee, what you should be hearing is, what are your key strengths and why should I give you this job? When I say to you, what are your hobbies? What you should really hear is, what are your hobbies and why should I give you this job? Nothing is irrelevant. Everything factors into my decision to consider you for a candidate for the next round. Before the interview, you should have certainly prepared your key strengths. You should have thought about what are the things you have to offer an organisation. You have to write those down. You have to think about, what are my 4 or 5 key strengths? What are the things that separate me from other candidates? Does anyone here know what behavioural interviewing is, or competency questions? Heard of them, maybe? Or the front row have used them, I'm sure. So these are questions which ask people to describe a time or a situation where they've previously had to call on skills relevant to the job. So they're looking for a competency. So they might say, can you describe a time you worked in a team, but the team was not working well together? What did you do? How did you address the situation? So it literally asks you to draw on a previous example. It's not theoretical. It's not saying what would you do in a team. It's saying what have you done? So we've got this response technique called the STAR technique, which is situation, task, action, results. This is the bulletproof way of being able to answer any tough interview question. Situation, task, action, results. anytime someone gives you a question, and maybe they don't make it as structured as I did in my example, anytime someone gives you a question in an interview setting and they ask you to give an example of what you've done, or say, can you help me out? Can you tell me more about what you've done here? Think of a specific situation. Think of something you've literally done before, and then describe it in terms of a task. So, for instance, you might say, in my class, we were given a team project, and the project was to deliver this. So my task within that team was to do this, this, and this. So you get it really specific. Then you've got to talk about the action you took and the results you delivered. If you follow this format, you'll find that your interview answers are much more structured. You'll find that they are very, very relevant, and it will force you to re-examine the way you describe your strengths. So a bad interview response would be an interviewer saying, tell me what's your top key strength? And as an interviewee, you go, communication skills. That's a bad response. A good response is communication skills. For example, in my last company, I was put in head of the internal communications. So my task was to come up with internal newsletters, branding, posters, memos, all of the things that would be used to communicate within the organisation. The action I took was to come up with a checklist and a schedule for delivering those internal communications, and consult each of the heads of department to make sure that they had their content included. And the result was we had a very effective internal communications program delivered within the first 3 months. That's a very different response to the first one. Practice, practice, practice. I know the difference. If I interview a candidate and they're coming for their first interview after 5 years, or they've been for 5 interviews before they've got to me, it shows. So before you go for your first interview and you burn that interview, practice. Practice with friends, practice with family, get an opportunity. Even if you don't have anyone there, do it in the mirror. Think about your 5 strengths and come up with examples that support each of those 5 strengths. So in an interview setting, you can call on them. You have a 2-minute example that supports every one of your key strengths ready to go. So that's the interviewer asking you questions. On the flip side of that, when you get to the interview and they say, do you have any questions? Have questions. They're not just asking you out of politeness. They want to know that you actually care about the organisation, that you've taken an interest. It's so easy to be able to ask relevant questions. You can go onto Google News. You can put in the company's name, click news, and it'll have their latest articles. And assuming they're positive ones, you might want to raise something there. Think about the job. Think about, my passion is in here. Can you tell me about how it would, how I'd have the opportunity to do that? Ask questions. People like having a conversation. People like interacting and engaging. And finally, follow up. So as I said, with applications follow-up, job interviews even more. You have now taken the funnel from being 1 out of 100 to maybe 1 out of 10. So the impact that your follow-up can have, the interest that it shows, sending the thank you letter, doing the follow-up and saying, hi, look, I'm really keen about that job. People remember you. They might not hire you even for that vacancy. They'll hire you for the next one. They'll refer you to a friend. They'll refer you to a colleague. You have to be remembered. You have to have that start of a relationship, because that's how employment starts. So at Sheffield, we have a list of do's and don'ts of interviews, and don't worry, if you don't just write that down. Don't worry, you don't have to write that down. I've got copies of this. If you want to go to our Facebook page, just search for us on Facebook. There's a copy of this file online, and it's got a whole guide for candidates on how to interview, but it's got some really interesting points in there. And just excuse me for a minute. Hi, Mum. No, I'm in a job interview. A job interview. No, not really. Okay, bye. That literally happened to me. I literally had a job interview. I had a candidate sitting there. They pulled out their phone and answered that call. Hi, Mum. Was it an emergency? I've had candidates turn up in shorts for a job interview. I've had candidates bring someone else into the room to help them with the interview. Overbearing husbands supporting their wives for job interviews. Mums in reception. I've seen it all. It's pretty funny actually when I reflect on it. There are some definite don'ts. There are some definite don'ts. Even the most senior candidates, I don't hesitate. If it's a CEO candidate, I will tell them how to be groomed. I'll tell them what to wear. People ask me, CEOs ask me, should I wear a tie? Should I wear a jacket? In Malaysia, this is really interesting. We live in a warm climate, right? So people are not sure. Should I be fully suited and booted? My general advice is you can't be overdressed for an interview. You can always be underdressed. But generally, if you can try and get some guidance from the organisation, you know, from the recruiter, from going to reception, these types of things, it helps. But there's a long list of don'ts, long list of do's and don'ts. So if you've got the chance, just go to our Facebook page and you can get a copy of this file for yourself. So we're going to go through 4 basic things, and this is often the way that this question is answered when it talks about what do employers want. We talk about skills, attributes, and these types of things, experience. So for qualifications, I thought this would be a good question to put up. Is a degree important? The answer is yes. So the reason why that question's there is because there's been a lot of pushback on degrees. There's been questioning of degrees. Degrees have been around for 100 years. And so as a product, there's been some change, but not heaps. And there's a question in some organisations about, are degrees now relevant? As applicants for jobs, as in candidates, as employees, that's not the question I'd be asking. I'd be looking at the data, which tells you that on average, degree holders earn 39% more than non-degree holders. And that would answer the question for me as a job applicant. But degrees are essential for certain professions. And even if they're not essential, most organisations use a degree as a proxy for quality. They say, well, this person has achieved something, this person must have been at a certain standard. And so even for professions that don't have it as a mandatory requirement, they'll still value the degree very highly. What is interesting is the brand of the institution is increasingly important rather than a degree. More and more at the graduate level, employers are looking at what is the institution that awarded that degree, more so than the degree itself. We are seeing some pushback on what we call credential creep. So there's been inflation around credentials. What do I mean by that? When I went to university, I have some older brothers and sisters, and they're a fair bit older. And when they went to university, having a degree was an important thing. It was an impressive thing to have a degree, and they got good jobs with good companies. So when I went to university, I thought, this is great. All I have to do is get this degree, and I'll get a good job. Soon after arriving, I realised I needed to have a degree that had good marks. That was a slight adjustment in my strategy for university. What's happened since then is people talk about having a degree, but then also having a postgraduate qualification, having a master's, these types of things as well. So we've seen this inflation in credentialism, which isn't relevant for every profession, and that's why we've seen a little bit of pushback on that front. So what my advice to people would be is there's no problem having more qualifications, but you need to make sure that your skills keep pace. So on the way in, I saw some signage for, I think, a diploma of hospitality. I interact with quite a few of the hotels around town. Their concern sometimes is when they get someone who's got a degree in hospitality but doesn't really have any practical skills that would suit them in a hospitality environment. So by all means have the degree, by all means have the qualification or the postgrad qualification, but make sure that at the same time you've been doing some practical things that will have your skills and your experience keep pace. In terms of skills, we divide skills into 2 areas. We talk about vocational or hard skills, and we talk about soft skills. So vocational and hard skills, employers more and more refer to wanting graduates who are workforce ready, people who can come in and make a contribution. I talked before about small companies wanting this to a large extent. I've got an intern in my office. We have a lot of interns. We have interns from Australia. We have interns from Malaysia. Got this wonderful guy, Raj, in the office, and he's a second year computer science intern. His degree is going to be in software programming. So I met him on his first day. I said, "Hi, Raj, nice to meet you. What software do you know how to program?" "Oh, we don't start software programming till third year." "So what are you doing?" "Oh, we do numerical sets, logic of data." I said, "Oh, okay, Raj, I don't have too much need for logic of data in my recruitment business. I mean, not in a project I can put you on for the next 10 weeks. So that for me suggested that there was a bit of a mismatch between what I wanted as an employer for someone who could come in and make a contribution and get to work straight away and have some skills that they can contribute in a hard sense. And I don't need them to be technical skills. I didn't actually need Raj to come in and do software programming for my recruitment company. What I wanted to come in and look at our CRM and help us with our user guides because their user guides aren't so good. Could he tailor them to ours? So his ability to have worked with those systems before would have been really useful. And any practical work experience that I've said to someone when they come in, I said, "What do you do really well?" We hire people for jobs all the time in my company. So there's the job they get, but then I also say to them, "What can you do? What else can you help us? What other skills do you have? Are you great at IT? Are you great at marketing? Are you great at writing?" All these different types of things. So no skill will go to waste. The other skills we have are soft skills. And this list is never ending, but these are some of the really key ones that people want you to be able to perform in the workplace. So communication, number one, without a doubt. It will advance your career more so than any technical skill. Your ability to communicate frequently, communicate often. It's so easy in an office setting to sit behind the computer and send an email to someone who's 10 feet away and not have a real working relationship with that person. Or you can be the person who gets up, goes over and says, "Hi, I just want to speak to you about this topic." It will change the nature of your working relationships dramatically and your ability to advance through an organisation. Leadership, a lot of employees cite leadership. I have mixed feelings on this. I don't want everyone to be a leader. I don't need 100% alphas in my business. People who are leading from the front, who want to take the lead and don't worry, I'll get it done. I think there's a place for showing leadership in individual circumstances. What I want is doers. That's my response to that. But so often when we have surveys of employers, they cite that they want leadership skills. I think when we talk about leadership in Asia and Malaysia, we also have to be a little bit careful. If you want something, put your hand up and ask for it. Don't be shy. I had a situation a few years ago where we had a new initiative in the business and I wanted someone to step up and take lead of that project. And we went into a room and I had all the staff there and I said, "Look, we're doing this initiative. Does anyone want to take charge of this and champion it for me because I could really use them?" No one did. So no worries, guys. Look, let me work on it. I'll appoint someone, get it done. Everyone left the room and one guy came up to me and said, "Boss, how come you didn't ask me?" I said, "But I just didn't." "No, yeah, but you didn't. You didn't say my name. If you thought I was the good leader, you would have told my name." I said, "Mate, I can't. My headspace is gone. I can't compete." So we've got this leadership from the front, but I suspect that's a case of wanting what I call leadership from behind. It's like, I want to lead, but I'm not going to put myself out there. Don't be shy about putting yourself out there. Have a go. Life's too short. Time management, prioritisation. I'd cite these as other ones. In a workplace, you're going to get so many tasks, and you're going to have to start prioritising. You're going to have to start working out if things are urgent, not urgent, important, not important, and start categorising things to deal with them as they come in. So in terms of experience, what do employers want? Well, any experience is better than none. I've seen graduates come in. I'd choose a graduate who had a part-time job in their high school years than one who did not. Any work experience is useful because you learn things. You learn what it is to operate in a workplace setting. You learn how to interact with people, learn what's appropriate. You just learn the basic rules of working in an office. This is an interesting one. So when we get asked for graduate hires, employers say, "I need a graduate." they don't mean that. They don't want a fresh graduate. They mean a graduate with 1 year experience. They always want us to say, well, they've got no experience. Yeah, but you want a graduate. No, well, we meant 1 or 2 years. We always seem to circle back to this graduate +1 type scenario. So any work experience you can have, anything you can start to do to gain work experience, to put that on your resume. I don't mind if it's a part-time job at McDonald's. It will be relevant. I came out of university. I had never had a job before apart from mowing the lawn in my grandmother's backyard, and I didn't think I could put that on my resume. So I remember being very nervous about not having any experience, and that moving from study to work was this big inflection point. That was sort of like a light switch. I was going to go from student to workforce. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think what we want to work towards is trying to have some work experience, having anything you can do, you can cite practical experience that you can contribute to an office environment. So that's where I say internships, activities, volunteer work, associations, all of it will be valuable. All of it will be valuable. All of it will separate you from the other applicants because it is quite competitive. Okay, and we're almost there. So what do employers want from new employees? So you've got the job. How are you going to act now? So this is what employers want. They want people who are going to listen and learn. Don't be afraid to take notes. No one will criticise you for taking notes. Write it down, get it right. If you're unclear, ask. Don't go off and spend 2 weeks on a piece of work and not having asked the question that would have given you all the answers to working in the right way. If you're unsure, ask questions. But listen, learn. Don't underestimate what your employer's saying. I had a project manager in the office yesterday, and she told me that in project management, they tell people when you're communicating anything about a new project or a new initiative, the rule is communicate it 7 times in 7 different ways. And no, you don't communicate things 49 times, but it was a lesson that they teach around. Most employees think they just say something once and it will get done. That's how bosses think. That's how I think. I think if I tell my employee, can you go and do this, it'll get done. But I realise that it needs to be communicated several times and explained a couple of different ways. So if you want to be the proactive employee, ask questions, listen, and help your employee, because employees aren't perfect. Deliver on what's asked of you. So I had a rule that I developed in my career, which was when my boss asked me to do something, I'm going to do it. And that made me stand out. That made me better than average, because not everyone does that. Not everyone follows that mantra. It sounds straightforward, but seriously, when your boss asks you directly to do something, do that thing first. Prioritise, I mentioned that before. And the other requirements that we see in a lot of employer surveys, they also cite these ones. So they want people who are going to be a team player. They want someone who's going to get along with the rest of the organisation. It's okay to be a strong performer, but you still need to work with everyone. We just had a whole presentation how it was about the team. The team gets it there. Richard Branson doesn't go out and, well, he started selling records one by one, but he didn't sell 1 million records, and he doesn't fly every plane. So it's certainly about being a team player. And what employers want, and this really contrasts with the start of the presentation, how we spoke about the changing nature of work, employers request loyalty. Loyalty comes in 2 ways. It's not just about staying in the organisation. It's about when you're with the organisation, are you loyal to that organisation? Do you talk badly about that organisation at lunch? Do you recommend that organisation? People want advocates. They want ambassadors for their company. That's who they want in their employees, and they're the types of people that they'll recognise and reward. And as you get older, I think this one will become apparent, that what you need to do is align your contribution. It doesn't matter what your role is. Doesn't matter if you're working in admin, sales, HR, finance, operations, all of these different departments. The more you can align your contribution and your function and your role with the ultimate goals of the organisation, the more you'll be in harmony with that organisation. The more the CEO, the GM, your manager will start to appreciate what you do. So you've got to have that perspective of that you're not operating in isolation. You're not just sitting there as, for the sake of being there. You're actually building towards the ultimate goals of the organisation. And if possible, the commercial goals of the organisation, because ultimately that's why most companies are in business. Most organisations in business is as a commercial imperative. Okay. So there's a bit of advice.
good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lay Howard, for your interesting and informative talk. I would like to once again invite Ms. Stella Lau, Deputy Vice Chancellor of Master University, to, as a token of appreciation for Mr. Lay Howard's time and his valuable contribution today, to present him a gift. Thank you, Mr. Lay Howard, and thank you, Ms. Stella. I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere appreciation to the speakers and guests for taking their valuable time and attending the program today. We will now have a short break for about 45 minutes and we'll come back to the program preview session. I request all the speakers and guests to join us for a light lunch, which is arranged in the cafe, Dental Block, ground floor. Thank you all once again and have a good lunch.
Outside.
Yeah, sure.
Don't block it.